You are listening to Elisha's Space Podcast. In this space, we discuss mental health awareness issues and topics of faith. I am your host, Elisha Lee. So let's get started.
Hello, welcome to Elisha's Space. Today we're going to continue our discussion about dealing with the stress of COVID-19 in the area of, the travel restrictions that are out there. I think I mentioned in an earlier podcast about how I have loved ones. I'm sure all of us do, who we would like to see and visit, but yet because of the uptick in the numbers, we're just not able to do the visits like we would like to, or the traveling that we'd like to do. We also don't want to put, them in a position where they can be in a precarious position, because you could carry it and not know that you're carrying it. And I can just imagine about, for those of us that were planning our vacations, maybe we were planning a nice getaway trip. If we were planning to maybe go on that cruise, it's such a wonderful thing to be able to look forward to going on your trip. It helps our brain because we have something positive to look forward to. And then the disappointment that comes from it not happening, it truly is. It's a loss. It's a grief for us because it's not there for us anymore. It's a real thing. So we want to go ahead and acknowledge that it's there. We can acknowledge that we do feel bad about it, that we feel bummed about it because you took the time out to plan to go on the trip. You probably made a down payment or you did some extra things to save for it so that you can go on the trip, and it didn't work out. And quite often those trips are, a form of self-care. So it's kind of like, okay, what am I going to do now? How am I going to handle this now? So definitely we want to acknowledge that and take that into account. This pandemic has been unpredictable. And even when things started to look like things were getting better, you may have been planning the trip and then maybe you were going to be going overseas or you were going to visit family and things of that nature. And it just didn't work out. You weren't able to go, even to be able to go overseas. It gives you less beautiful things to even think about. So we're going to just kind of discuss about the anxiety and stress that's around that, how the disappointment that we're feeling about it, and just kind of mention and discuss how we can manage that in our day-to-day as we're dealing with that difficult time of having to cancel the trip. And are you going to get your deposit or not get your deposit? That kind of thing. All of those things that are disappointing when we're planning to go on a trip. So I would also suggest to you is maybe instead of going on like a faraway trip or a long trip, plan a day trip. Make a small getaway. There are plenty of hiking trails and biking paths that you can go on. I know what I used to do with my kids is I used to make a list of parks and attractions that were near us, and we would just go out and we would go. And of course, we would follow, you want to follow the CDC guidelines. You want to use your sanitizer. You want to wear your mask and all those other things. We want to follow what the guidelines are for health because we are in a pandemic. But just because we don't have the ability to do a trip that's far away, it doesn't mean that we can't do a trip. You can still go ahead and you can do a trip. You still also, I would encourage you not to let your joy, that moment of joy, because it's an excitement that of something that you look forward to. So do your very best to not allow the joy to be stolen from you. You can listen to music. I always tell people about dancing it out and establish those virtual connections with other people. It's not the same, and I'm not making small of that, but it can definitely add to the value of that trip that you're planning. And you can always plan the trip for another time while you're doing the day trips, while you're finding more creative ways to connect with others and do fun things. You know, people have said that last year, 2020, was a reset year for them. And I believe that 2021 is also going to be a reset year for us as well, where we're going to be more focusing on grassroots types of issues, grassroots types of things that we're doing, and more things around our circle of influence that is closer to where we live. So we can be doing things with our families. And then also too, let me mention this as well, that there may be someone close to you that is, you know, maybe they don't have those connections and things of that nature because their family is out of town. So you can always reach out to them as well, check in on them, see on how they're doing. Building a community around one another makes all of the difference. And the thing about anxiety is that it is not a rational thing. And when it comes to anxiety around COVID, it is not a rational thing. You might surround your mind going with, what if this happens, or what if that happens? What if this occurs, and what if that occurs? Regarding visiting the ailing parent, that world of what ifs can become overwhelming. That world of what ifs can become uncomfortable. So by all means, do not allow the what ifs within that situation keeping you from enjoying that life that you need. If something happens that's unexpected with, let's say, an ailing parent and you have to travel, by all means, you know, do what you need to do in order that you can travel and make sure that they're getting the care that they're needed, because they may not have that support that's there. So don't allow fear to keep you from doing what needs to be done, but by all means, follow the correct regulations. Do your research. Because as I've mentioned before, knowledge diffuses anxiety. So do your research, check what you're doing, but be careful not to over-prepare. Because a lot of times if you overdo it, it can be an overwhelming thing. And take the necessary precautions to mitigate your risks. If I could say one thing in regards to a key takeaway of this, is avoid travel if you can. But if not, do it safely and continue to walk in his peace, because it's not God's will for you to live in fear and anxiety and worry. It is his desire for you to walk in his peace. And you can walk in his peace knowing that you've done all that you can do in order to make sure everything is taken care of for your family. Are you looking for an easy way to do your podcast and get your message, your content out there on a platform that is super easy to use? I am using Anchor, and it has been the most marvelous experience for me. It is the easiest way. One of the best ways is that it's free. There's creation tools that will allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or even your computer. And Anchor will distribute the podcast for you. So it's actually heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcasts with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So download the free Anchor app or go to Anchor, ANCHOR.FM to get started. You won't regret it. I know I don't.
Thank you for taking time out of your day to listen to Elisha's Space. If you like what you are hearing, I encourage you to subscribe to the show so you can hear all the other great upcoming episodes that are coming in the next few weeks. We look forward to connecting with you again on Elisha's Space.